Hey everybody, this is Chris, and today's video we're going to go over something that plagues the Hubsan Zino, and this also would apply to this is the original Zino that we're going to be doing this with, but it also applies to the Zino Pro because they use the same camera and it's the same type of cable system. So um, that issue is the issue with that red flashing light on the side. So if you power it on and that light just sits there flashing, you have no Wi-Fi, you can't connect to the quad, and normally that is tied into the video cable, the camera cable, FPV cable. It goes from the camera into the quad, so normally it's a bad connection. Worst case scenario, it's a broken cable. And I've said to people in the past, this is something you want to keep on hand, that and the motor or the gimbal cable. So we've got a perfectly good working Zino here, and we're going to show it connects. We have FPV, all that, and then we're gonna make it have a bad connection and show that red flashing light, and how to fix that connection in the two locations where it's placed, one on the camera, one inside the quad. So again, this applies for the Zino and the Zino Pro, and we're going to use the Zino in this video. But I also wanted to just say, going into the video, good old Zino 2, it's still a brick on the wall, so I haven't done much with it. I've done a SD card, or tried to do an SD card update, which was some bin files that they sent me. That was a fail. I've tried doing the update on a Mac, and I tried multiple times doing it on the PC, a little bit different ways, trying all kinds of scenarios, and she is still a brick. He is still a brick because his name is Floyd. Normally my quads are she's. I don't name them, but I always say she's a good quad, or she flies great. But everybody meet Floyd back there, my brick in the wall. So, and it continues to stay that way until I have the time to mess with it. I really wanted to get this video out, so it's something that I work with people a lot, and I just haven't put a video together on it. I did a video where your gimbal is real loose and sloppy, and how to find the bad connection and fix that, but I have not done one for the disconnect and the FPV. So that's what we're going to cover here and focus on in this video. So that's all I wanted to say. Just a little intro going into it, give you a little status update on my Zino 2, and I have a lot to tell on that whole story of the Zino 2, but I'm kind of waiting a little bit on that one. I'm waiting to see how things play out with it before I do the whole story on it. But it's been pretty interesting. Learned a lot, not only about the quad, but dealings that have been going on. So that'll be a video to come. So for now, let's focus on this, and I know this is a video that will help a lot of people. And then another one I'm going to do is address how to adjust your camera if you receive one with a out of focus lens. So that one's a little tricky, and that's a video to come sometime after this one. So enjoy the video. Thank you all very much for subscribing. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button now, and go ahead and hit that like button, because this is a good one and it's going to help. Take care. Okay, so as you see right here, we have a fully functioning Zino. We have established a connection. So we have FPV, and you'll see on the side, the gimbal's gonna not like this, but you look on the side here. Let me cut the light real quick. You can see we have a red light. So a solid red light is what we want to see, because Well, that means we have Wi-Fi. Everything is good when you see solid red. Now when you see a flashing red light, usually you have lost a connection somewhere. Now you can have a bad Wi-Fi module. You can have other things wrong with the main board, but a majority of the time the problem is within the cable, the ribbon cable, which I'll show you that cable in a little bit here. But usually it's the ribbon cable connection. If you've had a crash or something like that, chances are you've broken that ribbon cable. So if this is just happening out of the blue, no reason whatsoever, it's been working perfectly fine, the next time you go to use it, it will not connect. Usually it's just a connection. The ribbon cable doesn't just break by itself. So you should know yourself if you've had a crash, you now can't connect, you got a red flashing light, what the problem is. So if you've crashed it, you know it's going to be a broken ribbon cable. If not, it's probably just a connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bad connection, and then we're going to come back and we will have a red flashing light and not able to connect to the controller, and obviously not have FPV because we're not connected. The way I'm going to do that is inside the camera. It doesn't like this, but inside the camera there is a connection. The ribbon cable comes down and goes inside there, and then it goes inside the back of the lens. So I'm going to disconnect it at the back of the lens. This is the hardest part that you'll have to do because it's just not real easy to get to. And if that connection is okay, the other connection is right here inside the quad, and I'll show you that as well. So let's go ahead and make a bad connection. Okay, so now we have got our trusty Zino out and powered it on. We're all ready to go and fly, but then we notice we cannot connect. Now you can see here that we're connected by the relay icon. We're connected right here. So if we go into bind to aircraft, it says not connected. So we're not establishing a Wi-Fi connection when we're in this situation. So I'm going to turn the light off and show you the dreaded flashing red light. If you get that, that means you have no Wi-Fi and you are not going to establish a connection. So there are two places you can go and check for your connection, and one of them, we have another Zino right here, and I've already got the top and everything off of it. If you do not know how to take it apart to get to this point, check out my video showing you how to take it apart. But all we're going to do is you remove this very carefully. You see this ribbon cable? You want to be very careful with that. You lift that up, lift this up, and remove it. Then you can put this back. That's how I recommend you do it. Don't disconnect that if you don't have to. But for our camera, you have a plug here, and for the gimbal motors, you have a plug here. So what we're going to do is remove that. And you want to be kind of careful here because you don't want to, they're glued to the plugs. So you might want to hold the plugs down. But this one right here says cam on it. You can see right here it says cam. It's not really in focus, but this one right here. First thing you want to do is just make sure that's plugged in. So all you really need to do is just give it a little touch, see if it clicks into place. I'll double check it, make sure it is snapping in place correctly. It's not always easy. It's never easy on camera. Okay, it snapped back in. So that's one way to check it. And then turn on the quad and see if you have a red solid light. So let's just say that we check that, it's okay. We're not gonna, we can rule that out. There's nothing wrong with the cable here. So then the next thing you want to do is you want to go to the cable that's in the camera. So we're going to power it off. Let's kill our power here. Power this off. And what we're going to do is, this is a little tricky to do on camera, but let's give it a shot. We're going to remove this back screw. So you just unscrew that, wrong screwdriver. Unscrew that. These screws never want to come out when I'm on camera. And then we're gonna roll it around to the other side. And for the other side, I'm gonna fold these legs and set it on its butt. And then we'll want to get this screw. You always want to hold this camera secure. Don't want it flopping around. Don't want any mistakes with the screwdriver stabbing at it. So we remove that screw there. And now, oh, that came off easy. Wonder why. I wonder if I was already in here. So you'll see here that you have a plug. Now, it's got that thermal protector on it that absorbs the heat. So you really can't see the plug, but I'll show it to you. So you want to check and see if that's loose. In this case, we know it's loose because I made it loose, but here it is. It plugs in right there. Very hard to do there. So here it is. There's your little board behind the camera. And there's the plug. I know we're not really that great in focus here, but that's it. So what you want to do is you want to get that plugged back in place. Now you don't want to touch that little pink pad with your fingertip. So we're going to put on a rubber glove. You can use cotton gloves, whatever you want. So put on a rubber glove, and we're going to plug it back in. And you want to do this carefully and feel a click. I felt it click, and I have it back in place. So now we're plugged back in, and we want to see if we have a red solid light now. So let's go ahead and just set it aside, power it back on. And let's see if we...
USB disconnected.
Quiet. You're not disconnected. Okay, so we will wait for the controller to power up, and then we'll start the quad. See if we get a red solid light. And FPV. Okay. And I'm going to turn off the light here. These lights are messing with the camera. but you can see we have red solid light. We're not flashing. Okay, and we have FPV back here. So we're now working again. We have our gimbal going nuts right here, holding it, the tilt angle. But just to show you, so that brought our connection back. We have our red solid light. That's all good. So let's turn this off. And I want to show you one thing here. Generally, if this comes disconnected, if it's a bad connection, it's barely loose. Because if you notice here, you can see where the square is in the middle, where that pink pad was touching. That stays pressed against that plug. So usually if something like this happens from the factory, that plug connection to the board, one of those pins or something might not be touching, but it's either that right there or the one inside the quad that's causing you problems. Now the other thing you want to do is, I'm not going to put the screw back in it yet, it'll probably fall out. Let's just take that back off. The other thing you want to do is your cable comes in this side, and again it wraps around this side. You just want to inspect all of that. Make sure, I just took the back plate off of here. You want to make sure that the cable is all good by removing this back plate. Never use a tool when you remove this, and I'll show you how I do it. I'm going to put it back on and then I'll show you. Can't see where I'm at here. Okay, so the way you want to remove this is don't use any tools. Take your gimbal and hold it to the side. Sorry, let's move some legs here so you can see. Okay, so you want to hold your gimbal to the side. Hold it secure with your hand, and then you want to go to this top right here where the cable comes in. You want to go there, and that's where you want to pry first. Then you want to pry here. So all you do is you simply take your fingernail. Sometimes they'll come off with the top. So you'll hear it click, and then go to the bottom and it comes right off. It's not as hard as you think. So I always do it on this side because if you notice, there is a raised area on here, and it seems like it just folds off better. So I always do it from the right side of the quad and pop it off. So there you have it. It comes right off. You want to just get in here, check your cable, make sure nothing is ripped. Cable looks good. One thing I notice on this quad that I notice on a lot of them is the cable is loose over here. It's supposed to be behind this. That glue comes undone. So it's supposed to be, you're not going to be able to see that, but it's supposed to be behind this bracket, and the glue has come undone on this one. That can cause your gimbal to get stiff if it's not secured proper, if that cable is not secured properly. But my cable looks good all the way through. Everything is fine. You can inspect the cable here as well by peeling this back. Just double check it's, you know, it's not damaged anywhere. So cable looks good. Our connection here is good. The problem was the connection here within the camera. And then by just pressing that back in place, we got our FPV back. and we got rid of that dreaded flashing red light, and we have our Wi-Fi established again. So from there you just put this plate back in place, and you might want to do a gimbal calibration, and you should be good to go. So that is one of the things to look for when you have the red flashing light disconnect, and that should cover it. So the dreaded no Wi-Fi, red flashing light. Oh, I want to show you the cable. It's always the cable in most cases. Rarely is it the board. Here's your Wi-Fi module. Even if your Wi-Fi module plugs, your antennas for the plugs, even if they come off the Wi-Fi module, you should still have FPV and connection. You should have a red solid light. But if this Wi-Fi module burns out, or something within the board burns out, that of course too can kill your FPV, in which you're going to need a new board. That's kind of rare. But that Wi-Fi module, it gets very hot, and some have burned out. I've worked on probably, I stopped counting in the 60s, but I guarantee you I've worked on 70 ZINO-Ys now for people. And at least maybe 3 or 4 I've replaced the boards on because of a burned out Wi-Fi module. And that's because there's no ventilation within this, because they block off those back vents that I've talked about in my other videos. If you don't watch my videos, you should go check them out, because I point out a lot of important stuff. So here's a brand new one, and on the cable for this camera cable, there's only one type. So this is the cable. Look how big it is, all laid out. Pretty big cable. It wraps around all through the camera, and then once it's inside the camera, it does a coil. It's not an easy one to replace. If I ever do another one, I will make a video on it, but it is not a fun cable to replace. I will promise you that. So if you come down to the point where you have a broken cable, you need to order a new one of these, and I'll leave a link in the video. And then you need to take the quad apart like I showed you. You need to take it apart like this. And then you need to take the camera apart, pull the whole camera and gimbal out, take the camera apart, and unplug the cable and go through that whole ordeal. So that's a whole nother video in itself. I'm not going to do it now, but maybe I'll do a video later on just replacing this cable. For the Zino, the ZINO-Y, the Zino Pro, it doesn't matter. It's only one cable. The same cable for all 3, so it does not matter. The only difference with ZINO-Y is the gimbal motors. One of the connections are different there, so it requires a different cable for that. I actually have one right here. This is the cable for the motors, and you have 2 different types. You have one for Zino, one for ZINO-Y, and the only difference is one of the connectors is different. Not one of them, but the style connector is different. This one is the same, but these styles are a little bit different. So you get the wrong one, it's not going to work. So that's it, everybody. Sorry this is a long one, but this is very important, and this will help out a lot of people. So good luck. And as always, hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And on your way out, give that thumbs up, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.